What's up YouTube, welcome back to another video on my channel Skotrix, and today as you can see we're back on NBA 2k21, but we're not actually on the game today. We're on this website right here, NBA2klab.com. This is a really good website for any NBA 2k21 player to check out. It has premium services, which is basically breaking down jump shots. It has badge tests, but what we're going to be focusing on today in this video is the takeover tab right here. I'm going to be breaking down what every takeover does, which attributes it increases, which attributes it doesn't increase, the special abilities and animations that every takeover gives you, and then at the end of the video I'm going to be ranking every single takeover in NBA 2k21, so make sure you stay tuned for all that. Alright, so really quickly I just want to break down this little bit of extra information that they give on the side right here before we get into the actual takeovers. Basically what this says is additional to all of the extra attributes that every takeover gives, it gives additional animations for certain takeovers, and I'm going to get into what those animations are and what they do, but just know that it's not just the attributes that every takeover gives. So even if some takeovers give better attributes, there might still be advantages to taking other takeovers in terms of animations. And also what it says right here is if you have a takeover that gives +5 or +10 to an attribute category, that attribute category will not cap at 99. So the example that they give right here is a player with a 99 3-point rating that activates the shooting takeover, which gives +10 to shooting. We'll see their ranking increase to 109. So there's no hard cap at 99 on attributes when you activate your takeovers, so just keep that in mind when you're choosing your takeover. But now let's get into it here. Let's start off with the slashing takeover. This is a pretty good takeover. You can see right here it gives +10 driving layup, standing dunk, driving dunk, close shot, gives +5 to all shooting attributes, +10 to draw foul, shot IQ, +5 to pass accuracy, +10 to ball handle, which is interesting. Then it changes a few other things in here, but nothing really serious through defense and playmaking. These are mostly just +5s. And then if you go down to the bottom here for physicals, +10 for speed, 0 for acceleration. I'm not sure if that's right. I'm sure it gives +10 for acceleration, 10 for strength, 10 for vertical, 0 for stamina, but every build should have 99 stamina anyway, so that shouldn't matter too much. And then none of these attributes down here matter too much. But where the slashing takeover really excels is if you have contact dunks on your build. If you don't have contact dunks on your build, I usually don't recommend taking the slashing takeover unless you really have your heart set on it and you don't want any other takeovers, then maybe. But I think it's really just good for contact dunk builds. It can obviously give way more animations for contact dunks, greatly increases the chance of getting contact dunks, not only because it gives +10 on driving dunk right here, but also because it unlocks additional contact dunk animations and makes it more likely to get other good contact dunk animations. So the slashing takeover is really good for any build that has contact dunks. Otherwise I wouldn't worry about taking the slasher. There's probably a better option for you. Now onto the defender takeover right here. I'm sure you guys probably know what this one does. It gives +5 to all slashing and shooting and playmaking, but where it excels is perimeter defense, steal, it gives +10 on both of those, lateral quickness, help defense, which doesn't really matter, pass perception, defense consistency, speed, acceleration, and strength, it gives +10 to all of those. And then these bottom few right here, these don't really matter, but you can see what it gives to those right there, but those don't really matter. So obviously this takeover is amazing for defense. Perimeter defense, mostly, not really as much. If you're going to be on the inside, this probably isn't the takeover for you. Probably want to take either the rim protector or the rebounding takeover. We'll get into those in a second here. But the defending takeover is really good. It also gives an ability where it's like triple Hall of Fame clamps, where if anybody bumps into you when you have this takeover, they have to pick up the ball most of the time. As long as you're holding L2, you're playing good defense. It's really hard to score on somebody when they have this takeover, especially considering most defending builds that take this takeover are lockdowns and they already have really good defense attributes. So when you get this takeover, it just makes it that much better. Defending is a really good takeover. It is one of my favorites, even though it doesn't give quite as many attribute boosts as other takeovers. I really do like it. I think it's a good takeover for any build that is a defensive build, and it's going to be ranking high when we get to ranking the takeovers. Now let's go on to rebounding right here. Rebounding gives +10 to close shot, 5 to every other finishing attribute, also gives 5 to all shooting and playmaking attributes, but where it goes up is offensive rebound, and defensive rebound gives +10 on both of those, and also vertical. But the one ability that most people know the rebounding takeover gives is when you have it activated, it will show you where the rebound is going to go, so you can get yourself in really good position and set yourself up to get the rebound. It'll have a little target on the ground to show you where the ball is going to go, so you'll know. And it's also really good for boxing out and getting around box outs. If you have this takeover equipped, you'll have a way easier time boxing people out, and you'll also have a way easier time using like swim moves or whatever to get around people's box out. So rebounding takeover, very good takeover for big men. Might be the best takeover for big men, to be honest, because it's so consistent and it's so easy to get. All you have to do is get a few rebounds in a game and you should be able to get the rebounding takeover. Really good takeover. But now let's go into another takeover that's really good. Honestly, all these takeovers are really good, but this one is really good, and that's the Sharpshooting Takeover. I think this one is really the best for any shooting builds, just because the Playmaking Takeover and the Shot Creating Takeover I think are both going to get adjustments in the future, so it's really hard to tell if they're going to get better, get worse, how they're going to change, but I think the Sharpshooting Takeover will be consistent throughout the year and will stay really good throughout the whole year. So you could see +5 to all finishing stats, obviously to be expected, but +10 to mid-range, +10 to three-pointer, obviously again, that's probably what you would expect from the Sharpshooting Takeover. +5 to every other shooting attribute, as well as inside and playmaking attributes right here. But it does give +10 to offensive consistency, so you'll be able to get hot faster, and then everything else down here is +5. So really all this one's good for is shooting, but shooting is so important in this game, that's really all it has to be good for to be one of the best takeovers. And also a couple abilities that come with this takeover, it's basically like Hall of Fame Deadeye on steroids, as well as Hall of Fame Catch and Shoot on steroids. So if you get the ball off a catch and shoot, or you're super contested, you can make a lot more heavily contested shots with this takeover, as well as spot up shots. It's really good for giving an extra little boost on top of the 10 attribute points that it gives for spot up threes. So if you're shooting a catch and shoot 3 with this takeover, you really should not miss, unless you're just terrible at shooting, but you really should not miss. And obviously off the dribble as well, it is really good. But now let's go into Playmaking Takeover right here. Playmaking gives +10 to driving layup, +10 to pass accuracy, ball handle, speed with ball, obviously, since it's the Playmaking Takeover, and then also pass IQ, vision, offensive consistency, and then +5 to everything else here. So pretty decent boost to a lot of attributes for this takeover, but where it really shines is if you get this takeover and you pass to your teammate, it gives them a huge boost. This takeover is basically Hall of Fame Dimer on steroids. If you pass to somebody with the Playmaking Takeover, it's basically impossible for them to miss unless they just suck at shooting or they really mistime their shot. But another thing this takeover does, or is supposed to do, is help you break ankles in NBA 2k21, but it doesn't really do what it's supposed to do. I think it will get touched in a patch soon, so be on the lookout for that. If you're watching this video a little while after it comes out, then the Playmaker Takeover might have got a little bit of a buff, and ankle breakers might be easier to get with it, but right now it's really basically impossible to get ankle breakers whether you have this takeover or not. So just keep that in mind when you're trying to choose your takeover. This one is supposed to give ankle breakers, maybe in the future it will, but right now not really. Now we're going on to probably the best takeover in the game right now, but again I think this one might get a bit of a nerf. That's going to be the Shot Creating Takeover. This one gives +10 to driving layup, +10 to mid-range, and then +5 to basically everything else on offense except shot IQ, and then +10 to ball handle as well, and offensive consistency, and then +5 to everything else. But obviously where this takeover helps you in terms of abilities is with making shots off of either like fadeaways, hop jumpers, leaning shots, all that. This takeover helps so much with those shots. It basically makes it impossible to miss, and as you guys know, without the takeover even, a lot of those shots are really pretty much impossible to miss if you have high ratings. But where this takeover comes down a little bit is, like I said, I think it's going to get nerfed. I think leaning shots are going to get nerfed in 2K probably pretty soon. So this takeover may not be as good in the future. That's why I said the Sharpshooter Takeover is more consistent of a choice. It's way less likely to get nerfed, but right now Shot Creator Takeover, definitely the meta, definitely the way to go, but that might change. Now let's go on a Post Scorer Takeover. As you could probably expect, this one gives +10 to close shot, post hook, post fade, shot IQ, interior defense, which is interesting, and then +5 to everything else right there. But a couple things that this takeover does as abilities is if you're backing down somebody and you have the post scoring takeover, they could forget about having any chance of guarding you. They're going to get pushed so far back into the paint, it'll be ridiculous. But I really don't recommend this takeover unless you're a post scorer, like a 7-3 post scorer. Otherwise it's really just not worth it. It is a good takeover for 7-3 post scorers, but otherwise not really worth it. It does give that +10 to post fade and post hook, as well as giving you the ability to push people around, like I said, but not really an amazing takeover unless you're a post scorer. Now let's get on to another takeover that is pretty good for big men. That's Rim Protector. This is going to be the last takeover here, and it gives +10 to close shot, +10 to interior defense, +10 to block, and then +5 to everything else. So not too many attribute boosts for this takeover right here, but obviously it unlocks a lot more block animations. It makes it more likely for you to get snatch blocks, and also this takeover is basically like Hall of Fame Intimidator on steroids. If somebody tries to do a layup over you or something while you have this takeover equipped, even if you somehow don't block it, it's basically impossible for them to make it. Like, impossible. It'll be way harder for you to get dunked on when you have this takeover equipped. So it is a really good takeover, but I don't recommend it over the glass cleaning takeover for any big men really. But yeah, that's the attribute breakdown for every single takeover. Now I'm going to get into the ranking every takeover right here. Now remember, when I'm ranking, this is going to be objective towards how good they are overall. It's really hard to compare takeovers. Like, how do you compare the playmaking takeover to the post scoring takeover? Because obviously the post scoring takeover would suck for a guard, and the playmaking takeover wouldn't be good for like a really slow big man. So it's kind of hard to rank each takeover compared to each other, but I'm going to try my best to give you guys a list right here. So first of all, we have the spot up shooter takeover. This is going to be my number one highest ranked takeover because, like I said, I think it's going to be super consistently good throughout the whole year, so it's a safe pick to take for any build. Next up, we got the glass cleaner takeover. Again, super safe pick for any big man build. This takeover is easy to get. You can get it pretty much every game. Helps out a lot with a lot of different things, including obviously rebounds, which is its big focus. But then next up, we got the shot creator. This one might drop a lot in the rankings, like I said, if it gets nerfed. But right now, it's at number 3. And then number 4, we have the lockdown takeover right here. Super good takeover. Maybe my favorite takeover in the whole game. Next up, we got the slashing takeover. Another good takeover. Don't really recommend it unless you have contact dunks though. But now we have the post scoring takeover. Another good takeover, but again, I don't really recommend it unless you're a post scorer with like a 95 post hook or a 95 post fade. Then we got the playmaking takeover. This takeover is good for passing. It might get a buff in the future for taking ankles, but right now not really good for dribbling, but really good for passing. And then in last place right here, we have the rim protector takeover. Just not as good as the glass takeover, so I really don't recommend you taking this for any build. But it is an okay takeover, just not as good as the glass. But there we go, that's every single takeover in NBA 2k21 broken down and ranked. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you like the video, subscribe to my channel if you're new. I might upload daily NBA 2k21 content, as well as I stream on Twitch almost every day, so make sure you go follow me over there. Link will be in the description. Appreciate everybody who took the time to go follow me on Twitch. But anyways, that's going to be it. Alright, peace.